Hi guys, this is Jacqui Cooper from JCooperTravels, and today I have a very special guest here, Kevin. I have met him on LinkedIn, and we've been talking about his very unusual business, but really, really important because many times we don't think about alternative ways to help heal ourselves. And so I'm really excited to have him on to explain more about how his business got started and all the various areas that people might be able to consider in using his services and the business that he has. Kevin, thank you so much for being on here today. Would you like to go ahead and share more about what your business is, how it got started, and how we can use your services? Because I think it's wonderful.
Sure. Thanks, Jackie, for having me, first of all. So I'm Kevin Kramer. I'm the CEO and co-founder of US Cryotherapy. And, 10 years ago, the answers to what it is that we do and why we do it would have been very different. We started the industry in the United States in 2011, and we opened the first retail treatment center that offers basically cold air therapy and other recovery modalities to help people take care of things like chronic and acute pain and post-surgical inflammation. There are many, auto-inflammatory diseases and other things that the symptoms are very difficult to deal with, which cold therapy helps a tremendous amount with. So today there's a much greater awareness for it, of course, because there's been an expansion of the industry. It's still relatively nascent, but there are centers pretty much in every metropolitan area. Some are different than what we do. There's competition now, of course, as well. But what US Cryotherapy prides itself on as a brand, and we're the leader with 25 retail centers now nationwide. We offer electric refrigerated cold therapy. And so our chambers are walk-in systems. You not getting exposed to any gases or liquid nitrogen, which our competition does. And that's the same with our localized devices. And it's safer. It has a greater capacity, so you can go in with a friend or a family member. They're larger units so that everybody goes into the same room and gets cooling at the same time. And from an outcome standpoint, they're much more effective because, of course, you're treating at a whole body level as opposed to standing in a unit that's cooling you, say, from the bottom up. So, I'll let you ask some questions, but it's, what we do is help people recover and feel better. Mood and energy and stress levels, and that's been so important, particularly over the last 7 months with the stress and the unhealthy conditions of being basically, sheltering in place.
So, if someone was thinking about exploring this, does insurance cover this, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're an approved alternative healthcare provider. So they can use what's called a flex spending or a health savings account at our centers, and that usually goes right through. But it's a non-medical treatment, so it's not FDA approved, and thereby it's not going to be prescribed and reimbursed under a typical medical channel.
So how would someone decide that this is something that they should consider? I mean, you said it's not medical, which I understand. In reading more about it, I was fascinated with the idea that you could walk in.
Yep.
So is it something that an individual decides on their own, or do doctors say, why don't you consider this? Or physical therapists say, why don't you consider this? How does someone even become aware of this as an alternative means of treatment?
It's a little bit of everything. So if, say, for example, you had an acute injury from a, biking event, you took a crash on your bike and your ankle was swollen, you may seek out, a center like ours to help with the reduction of inflammation and the reduction of pain and the improvement in range of motion, right? So we're going to help accelerate your recovery. In addition to that, when we open up our centers around the country, then we start to get referrals from orthopedics, chiropractic, post-surgical, whatever it might be. And so word of mouth sort of spreads that what centers like these do for people. And it's an alternative elite wellness center. So when you think about, the athletes, for example, US Cryotherapy is a provider of this equipment for professional sports teams. So we're in the Buffalo Bills and the Atlanta Falcons and the Minnesota Vikings and 9 NBA training rooms with our chambers. And they do these same treatments that somebody would go in and get at a retail center. And so, people read about, hear about, they will see the new technology. It spreads that way from an awareness standpoint. It's still not where it needs to be, but it's a combination of all things: word of mouth, referral networks, everything.
How has you mentioned that at 10 years ago or when it began, it's different than it is now. How has it changed?
Well, I mean, awareness that we just talked about, that's a big part of it. So it was, it emerged in Europe in the hospital clinics, and then it went into retail treatment. And that's when we found it around 2010 in Europe. And so, launching it here in the retail space, I mean, in Northern California, which is where our flagship center is, we opened up our doors on day one and nobody had any idea what whole body cooling was, right? People thought that we were doing, cryogenically freezing bodies or something. So it just takes education and awareness. We started to get some of the NBA teams that were coming through Sacramento to go and use our center, and there was some news coverage, and then we would slowly get into the community partnerships that we have developed so strongly around all of our centers now, with gym partners and nutritionists and people who are really in the healthcare field. So it just takes time, but we're so much further along on the education and acceptance of what full body cryotherapy is today than when we started.
I'm fascinated by this. I really am. How, if someone goes through a treatment, how, I know there's probably no standard answer, but how many treatments would they need possibly, or how long does it last? And is it something that actually you have to keep doing, or, you talk about inflammation, and there could be a number of reasons, like you said, why the body's inflamed. It could be, a short-term injury or something that's, more long-term. How does your center make the determination, okay, do three of these,
Yep.
or how do you figure that out?
It's a great question. So, treating yourself and your body for better health, it's not really any different than going to, say, a gym, right? Where you don't go once and then you're like, I'm done. I got what I wanted, right? But there's a big part of it. It depends on what you come in for. If you have an acute injury and substantial inflammation and range of motion issues from that, then we're going to recommend a package of, say, maybe a 30-day course of care where you're coming in 3 to 4 times a week, and we're going to be treating it. We're going to reduce the inflammation. We're going to improve the circulation at the site of the injury. And you're going to slowly then start to be able to have greater range of motion and strengthening to improve and recover. So it really depends. It's interesting. We did in June, we launched a Reset Your Health challenge, which was when our centers were all reopening after COVID. We felt it was really important to get people to commit to a 30-day routine. And in doing so, we gathered a lot of survey information. We had over 1,000 entrants into this survey. And the things that we were looking at were like mood enhancement, energy level enhancement, pain reduction, stress level reductions, improvements in sleep, which, ironically, all sort of feed into the healthier immune system function, right? So if you're getting better sleep and your body's not as inflamed, you have a more functional immune system, so you're naturally healthier and you can fight off things and you can recover faster. And so we had, on average, I think it was very close to about 90% improvements in almost all of the categories across 1,000 subjects. So, and that was over 30 days of use. And many of them, I think 85% of them, then engaged in another 30-day protocol on their own, because they thought that it was really important just to maintain that. So typically you're going to stack a little bit more of your therapy up front if you have some type of an injury. If you've got a chronic condition, you're going to just sort of come on a routine basis. But usually it's 2 to 3 times a week that people are in our centers for maintenance mode.
And again, it might depend upon how long you're in for and that type of thing, but what's the average cost of a treatment or a session?
Yeah. It's a lot less than most people would think. Every time I have these calls, people go, whoa, that's it, right? So, our first time visitor package is $45, and that includes 3 or 4 touch service. You can get the chamber. We're going to show you the localized device. We're going to do a deep muscle pulsation treatment, and we might do compression therapy. And then we'll credit that at all the U.S. Cryotherapy centers towards a 1 month pass, because our mission is one time is not what you really, are going to need. You're going to need a routine here. So give us 30 days. We'll give you the $45 you just spent towards your $199 1 month unlimited pass. So they're going to pay another $159 or $150, and then they're going to be able to use our center for 30 days unlimited. So many of our customers that come in, 15 times in the month, they're spending $12 a visit for elite recovery care. So it's very it's affordable and very inexpensive by cost averaging how many times people are visiting and using it.
Well, and the other thing that, a lot of times we forget, you do have the injury, but you're also preventing something, which is, so you're right. It's, the cost per visit is very low. And if you look at the long-term return on maintaining your body, reducing the inflammation, reducing the stress, then it means that you're healthier overall. So it's a very small investment in the long run.
Yeah, anecdotally, look, we've had a couple of people that have acquired COVID and then recovered very fast. I had COVID in August, and I was down for 3 days. I had a fever and some night sweats and a headache, and within 3 days, those were gone. I never had any respiratory issues. I'm a healthy person in general. Can't say that I eat great, but other than that, I go to the gym and I do whole body cryotherapy and I stay in good shape. And my immune system, I'm 52 years old. I probably would have been considered in a category that might have had a little higher risk, had an immediate recovery. So can't say that that's correlated, right? I'm not, by any means claiming that it can help you with COVID or anything else, but it all ties into your overall whole body health. That has to do with stress levels. That has to do with energy levels. That has to do with, your mental clarity and acuity. There's all kinds of things that tie in. And one, small hiccup in all of that with inflammation or an injury or whatever it might be can sort of disrupt everything. So whole body health is really important.
I think what you're doing is wonderful. You said 25 centers. Where are they pretty much located? So if there are people who are listening on the podcast, because the podcast is global, and I know, that there might be individuals that will do a Google search right after, but where are you located?
Yeah, so we're a U.S. based company. We manufacture our products here. All of our centers are in the United States. The easiest way to find us is just www.uscryotherapy.com. If you go to our main corporate landing page, from there you can choose what you want to learn about the company, or just hit the locations tab and find out where our treatment centers are. And we're nationwide, but we have a concentration on the West Coast for the most part.
Do you have any on the East Coast?
Yeah, we have some in Florida. We have equipment in locations where we don't have franchises as well, because we directly sell equipment if it doesn't conflict with an existing franchise territory. So we're in New York City. We're in a number of locations east, but we need to expand that. We will hopefully add some additional company-owned centers, which will stimulate more franchising. We'd love our brand to get to 100 centers in the next 2 years.
So for those that are listening on the YouTube as well as the podcast, there's like this little block of information on the bottom, and there'll be the direct way that you can reach Kevin and his company in there. If you're on the YouTube channel, I'll be very transparent. I'm not at 1,000 subscribers yet. I'm trying to get there. So definitely like and subscribe, because as soon as I get 1,000, I can definitely put Kevin's the website and information in there. And that way you can directly go right to him. So if you're finding this on YouTube, send me a quick email, or like Kevin said, go, do the Google search, but the information will be there. Kevin, any last minute thoughts? I know just one thing before I let you talk, and I apologize because it popped into my mind. You did mention that you have franchises. So that means that anyone who's listening, who's not just thinking about becoming a client who might be interested in starting or getting involved in this type of business, they can reach out to you as well?
Absolutely. And you can find it on our website. If you go to the menu bar up at the top, there's direct sales and franchising. And we get a lot of inquiries for it. I think that there will be, as we come out of these restrictive conditions in states and things, I think there will be people that will be looking at, was that job that I was going to every day really what, did it for me, or what, are my investments really safe? And so they may be considering some alternative life course. And if they're looking into franchising, give us a call.
Yep, for sure. One last thing before we go. I'm in the travel space and I love to travel. Where have you traveled and what's on your bucket list for where you want to go as soon as we are kind of moving around, past COVID?
I've traveled a little bit of everywhere. I've been to Europe. I've done, a number of different trips, business and personal related. My dad, before he passed away, had a place in Prague, so that was always beautiful to visit there. But my favorite travel location is the Hawaiian Islands. I'm a West Coaster and used to take my family there quite a bit, and that was our vacation time. So I really enjoy that. I'm a beach and sun kind of guy as opposed to anything else. But bucket list wise, honestly, I think I'd like to try Costa Rica at some point. I've heard some pretty good things about that. Other than that, don't really have any others that I think I have to get to, but I would like to travel more.
Do you foresee opening up your business out of the United States? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, it is. I think things never go as fast as you anticipate them to. So we've had a lot of inquiries about franchising and or selling equipment internationally. And the problem is we don't have the infrastructure currently to really support it. And so we really won't open up a new international market until we either have a partner in that market that wants to invest in some of that infrastructure and be, franchise area rights or something like that. So we've had a lot of dialogue. Someday there probably will be a U.S. cryotherapy in Dubai or, in some other foreign place. So I expect it will happen, but I have no idea when.
I look forward to being able to visit you both on the West Coast as well as possibly over in Europe as I travel, so that way I can kind of maintain my health as I go.
Very good. Very good.
So thank you, Kevin, so much for being on. I think this has been a fascinating topic, and I'm always looking at alternative things, to maintain my own personal health. And the idea that you can reduce the inflammation and do it in a way that is non-invasive and really, maintain your health over the long run. I think that more and more people definitely should, check it out and look into it. So thank you so much for being on and just kind of letting us learn more about what you do.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.